Hi friends, it's Dr. Rachel Paul. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We are going to be talking about how to lose weight while eating carbs. There are a lot of myths around carbs. We're going to clear those up, and then we're going to talk about some practical strategies for including carbs in your diet while losing weight and then maintaining that lost weight. All right, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is what are carbohydrates, right? So there are three macronutrients our bodies use. There are carbohydrates, proteins, and vegetables. Now I know when people think about carbohydrates, they typically think of pasta and bread, but there are so many more foods that have carbohydrates in them. So yes, starchy vegetables like popcorn or potatoes, also the pasta, the rice that I just mentioned, but also fruits are primarily carbohydrates. Vegetables are primarily carbohydrates. And there are also carbohydrates in a lot of our other foods. Nuts, cheese, salad dressings, dessert. So carbohydrates are really in a lot of our foods. All right, let's talk about the next step. Let's talk about a common myth. And the myth is you have to cut out all carbohydrates to lose weight. Now that is not true. Total calories matters most for weight loss. So if you wanted to, you could eat in a calorie deficit pretzels all day and lose weight. That is an option, right? But you probably want to keep your body feeling its best. That's what I help people prioritize, is keeping their body feeling its best. So this likely means having some carbohydrates, but also having some proteins and fats to keep your body feeling energized. So for example, I have some pretzels here, but I'm pairing it with the cheese. The cheese has that fat and protein. It's going to keep you full. Here I have a salad. The greens are the carbohydrates. And then I have some blue cheese and some dressing and a salmon fillet. That's going to keep you full for hours. All right, let's talk about the next myth. The next myth I want to talk about is that carbohydrates have no nutritional benefit, and that is not true. Carbohydrates contain a lot of antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and fiber that keep your body working at peak capacity. So two things I want you to keep in mind. Number one is to focus on complex carbohydrates and whole grains rather than refined grains. Does this mean you can't have white pasta or white rice every few days? Of course not. That's totally fine. But on the whole, if you can choose whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, that's going to be much better for your digestive system, and you're going to get many more vitamins and nutrients. Similarly, it's important when choosing vegetables and fruits to choose a variety of colors. So each color of fruits and vegetables has different nutrients. So red tomatoes, strawberries have different nutrients than green ones, than purple ones, than yellow ones. So it's important to get a variety. A good thing to do each week is to say, okay, let me pick a new color of fruits and vegetables this week so you can make sure you get the variety of nutrients. All right, let's talk about the next tip. The next thing I want you to do is to create a plan for your higher carb foods. Now by higher carb foods, I mean foods in these categories: starches, fruits, dessert, and alcohol. So you are going to find the right portions for you, and the best way to do this is to track what you're eating. I really like the Lose It app. It's easy to use, it's not as many bells and whistles as MyFitnessPal, and people seem to really like it, and I like it too. So that's why I recommend you use it to track. Now the structure for foods with higher carbohydrates is important to think about ahead of time. So maybe you like to have a starchy food for breakfast. Maybe that gives you a little bit of energy right first thing in the morning. Or maybe you like to have dessert at night, and you can always plan for that. Remember, nothing is off limits. You get to choose the plan that works for you. What I find works for a lot of women is one starch, one fruit, one dessert, and one alcohol if you want it, and not every day usually, right? So for example here, I have a yogurt and eggs for breakfast, so we don't have a higher carb food there. Then for lunch, I have pizza with carrots and blue cheese dressing. The pizza is the starch for the day. And then for a snack, I have an apple and peanut butter. The apple is the fruit for the day. For dinner, I have a salad with salmon and blue cheese. We don't have any higher carb foods there. Vegetables do have carbohydrates, but they don't have as many grams of carbohydrates as the other higher carb foods. And then for dessert, I have an ice cream sandwich. All right, so that is an easy way to structure your day so that you feel full and satisfied while eating carbohydrates. next thing to do is to plan for unknown circumstances. So if you know you're going out to dinner later tonight, or you're going to a wedding, it's Saturday, going to a wedding later in the evening, a good thing to do when you're creating your structure for higher carb foods is to save those higher carb foods, starches, fruit, dessert, and alcohol for that occasion when you might not know exactly what's offered. If you're going to someone's house, you don't know what they're cooking, right? Or if you're going to a wedding and you really love pasta or potatoes at weddings, right, at the main course. A good idea is to save your higher carb foods for those unknown occasions, just so you have more options, right? You can kind of taste different things and feel good about those decisions. All right, let's talk about the next step. The next thing to do is to really fill up your meals, especially lunch and dinner, with non-starchy vegetables. The great thing about non-starchy vegetables is they can take up so much volume. And similar to chewing your foods versus drinking, when we're eating a large volume of foods, it takes us a while to eat the whole meal. It allows our body to feel full, right? To get that feeling of fullness so we can stop eating and allow our bodies again to go through that natural hunger and fullness cycle until it's time to eat again. So I have here a bed of greens, but you can put in a whole lot of other non-starchy vegetables to really beef up your lunch and dinner. So celery, cucumbers, tomatoes, cabbage, you can really go to town. My next tip is to pair higher carbohydrate foods with a protein or fat source. Now I have two examples here. The first example is an apple, and I have here some peanut butter. So the apple is that higher carb food. It has those great nutrients, has good vitamins and fiber, but the peanut butter is what's gonna keep you full because it has that fat and protein. So that's a good combination. The next example I have is avocado toast, really guacamole toast. So the toast, the piece of bread, is whole grains, great amount of fiber, good vitamins and minerals, but what's really gonna keep us full is the fat from the avocado or the guacamole, okay? So these are two examples of ways to pair a higher carb food with a protein or fat source to keep you full. The next thing I want you to do is to be a food snob. Now, I really want you to be a food snob with all food groups, not just higher carb foods, but here's what I mean by that. So for me, rice versus a baguette, for me, being a food snob means that I'm gonna choose that baguette more times than I choose the rice. I really love the taste of a baguette. It is so much more worth it to me to eat the baguette versus to eat the rice. The rice, I could really kind of do without. Okay, so what I want you to do in terms of higher carb foods, but also in terms of other food groups too, is to think about which foods keep your body feeling its best and that you like the taste of. Okay, so think about it in terms of higher carb foods, whether it is toast, whether it is a potato, which foods do you really love the taste of and that keep your body feeling its best for higher carb foods, but also for other food groups as well. All right, let's talk about the next tip. The next thing I want you to do is to focus on moderation. Now, I know it's really tempting to try the latest crash diet that seems easy. Oh, cut out all this entire food group and the weight comes off super easily. And maybe that's true for something like keto. If you eliminate all carbohydrates from your diet or the vast majority of carbohydrates from your diet, it is true that if you are eliminating an entire food group, you may have fewer calories that you're eating, and so the weight might come off. But likely that is not something you can keep up for the rest of your life, right? So it's important to learn how to moderate now. I one time had a client who asked me, oh, do you think I should try Whole30 for 30 days and to then, learn how to moderate later? But I would say, why wait? Right? If you don't have an elimination diet issue, why not learn how to moderate now and not delay that process, okay? So likely that will mean some higher carbohydrate foods like the pizza here, but then also filling your plate with protein, fats, and vegetables. So I have the carrots here and the blue cheese dip. It's gonna keep you full. You're gonna be able to concentrate on your work or on your school for the next few hours. The next thing I want you to do is to focus on commitment rather than willpower. Now, willpower is no good, right? Willpower diminishes throughout the day, and then we're left getting to dinner time and not wanting to spend the time to cook a nice healthy meal, right? And the research does show that we run out of our willpower as the day goes on. Instead, I want you to choose commitment. So commitment means that 100% of the time you are prioritizing your body feeling its best, okay? There's a really interesting saying that says that it is easier to stick with something 100% of the time than it is to stick with something 98% of the time, right? Because then with that 2%, you're still waffling. Oh, should I eat out? Should I not stick with my plan for this 2% of the time? If you commit 100% of the time to keeping your body feeling its best, to learning how to moderate like we just talked about, you will be in such a much better position. All right, let's talk about the next step. My last tip is to not compare what you're eating to what other people are eating. Now, when I was in my weight loss journey, I would look at other people, typically really skinny people, and seeing them eating pizza for lunch and pasta for dinner and think, oh my gosh, this is so unfair. Like, why can't I eat that way? But here's the truth, you cannot compare yourself to any other person. You can only compare yourself to your own journey. You really have no idea what other people are eating. So maybe you see a really thin person eating pizza for lunch, but you have no idea what they're eating the rest of the day, okay? So what other people are eating is none of your business, just like what you're eating is none of someone else's business. All right, friends, those are my top tips on how to lose weight while eating carbohydrates. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to like the video, comment, and hit subscribe, and then hit that bell icon so you're notified of the next video, and I can't wait to see you next time.